Welcome to Manhwa Nirvana. If you enjoy my work, please like and subscribe, it really helps keep me motivated. Now, let's dive into the story. The story starts where we see a rainy battlefield. Buildings are damaged and corpses are lying on the ground. Light blue particles hover over the battlefield. A woman is swiftly running through the rain, airwaves forming because of her speed. We see some people running behind her, shouting, "Don't let her escape." Suddenly, a hand with red mana glowing appears. The figure says, "That's enough," and all the pursuers stop in an instant. We see an old man in a red robe named Jong Richu, with glowing red eyes. He continues, "Chasing them all will only result in pointless bloodshed." He watches over a corpse and says, "Kim Siviak," as we see the corpse of a young man. He continues while looking at it. He was surprisingly impressive for a man from a small country. That's all. How dare someone like him, a hero of a fallen kingdom, think he can compete? Giving an evil smile, he shouts, "I am the only one truly worthy of being like a god." As the whole area engulfs in his red mana, he looks up and says, "I have kept my promise to you." We see a terrifying red eye tearing apart space. The eye says, "Yes, you did it, Jong Richu." Jong replies, "Now it's your time to keep your promise and request to ascend as the Earth's constellation." The eye agrees and requests the birth of a new constellation from the system. Jong Richu laughs as the system analyzes the situation. The system declares that the subject doesn't meet the requirements. Jong Richu is shocked. As the system expands its search, it finds that the dead man did have the qualifications for constellation, but since he is dead, the system announces the termination of the Earth. Jong Richu is shocked. Hearing this, the eye, in a sarcastic tone, says, "Damn, Jong Richu, you don't have the qualifications." Jong Richu asks, "How dare you deceive me? Didn't you say that if I killed Kim Sihyok, I could ascend to the celestial rank?" The eye replies, "Yes, I said that, and I did request your ascension to the system as you wished. It was just you who didn't meet the qualifications." Red lightning surrounding the eye starts attacking Jong Richu and his men, electrifying and killing everyone while destroying everything. Jong Richu, on his knees, curses the eye. The eye, enjoying the situation, says, "The moment is always fresh, and I would devour this world. What could you expect from a constellation, only to be stabbed in the back?" The scene then shifts to the woman who is running. She enters a room and calls out for Kim Simon. We see Kim Simon sitting in a pile of books and empty elixir bottles. He says, "You have come." The woman, shocked by the scene, asks, "How can you calmly hold on to this situation when the world is falling apart?" Kim replies, "What else could an alchemist do if not perform alchemy?" While reading a book, she throws a bag at him and asks him to take it. Kim, seeing the contents of the bag, is shocked. He sees a bottle of pink elixir and asks, "What happened?" The woman says, "It was that old man who betrayed your brother and killed him, and yet your foolish brother didn't use this and tossed it to me." Hearing this, Kim sighs. The woman continues, "With this, I have paid the debt I owed him." Kim asks, "What debt? You are still holding on to that?" She says, "Because of my revenge, your brother died." Kim replies, "Your revenge was justified, and those people did deserve to die. My brother's death and this are separate issues." As she starts to leave, Kim asks, "Why are you leaving when you suddenly showed up?" She replies in a cool tone, "Off to struggle." She continues, "Jong Richu summoned something truly terrifying, and you also heard the system's announcement about the Earth's destruction." Kim replies, "Yes, I heard that, and also heard that the qualification holder of Constellation died." While looking at the elixir, he thinks, "If anyone could have the qualification, it would be my younger brother, the Sword Saint." The woman continues, "Whoever it is, the situation doesn't look good, and this place isn't safe either. You would die this time for sure." Kim Simon asks, "Then why aren't you running away?" The woman looks back and says, "You know that running away isn't my style, and I don't have any reason to live now." While walking out, she says, "Don't forget to drink that, as the Sword Saint gave his life for the elixir." Kim Simon replies sarcastically, The elixir was originally mine. Simon activated his status window, and the screen displayed his information. His title was not shown, but his ability was magic, and he was affiliated with the Republic of Korea. He was a level 1 player with stats of 1 strength, 1 agility, 3 health, 0 mana. His ability was mana incapacity, with a total of 5,000 achievement points. Simon felt disheartened at his pathetic stats, but there was no point in dwelling on it. He needed an energy source for alchemy, and somehow, everything seemed to align perfectly after his awakening. It was the culmination of his lifelong efforts, something he wouldn't have even dreamed of achieving without obtaining the emerald tablet. As he opened the elixir, Simon wondered if it was merely poison at this point. Well, at least my mind hasn't collapsed, and I even have the elixir, which could be considered the pinnacle of alchemy, he thought to himself. He had managed to create it. Pouring the elixir onto the emerald tablet, Simon felt grateful to Sihyok and the girl Malsuk. Because of them, he had reached his lifelong goal, even if it might lead to his death. He wasn't sure if he could succeed in this environment, but alchemy was based on equivalent exchange. The moment he began the process, mana rumbled violently within the magic circle. Despite the chaotic energy, Simon held on firmly. A huge surge of mana shot through the roof and into the sky. In the aftermath, the magic circle was damaged, and the emerald tablet lay shattered. However, a round-shaped object had formed in its place. A message popped up informing Simon that he had successfully transmuted a mythical product. He was relieved as he received multiple notifications. He had earned 5,000 achievement points and created 2 mythical alchemy products. He also earned the title, Pioneer of Alchemy, his very first title. The stone he created from the shattered tablet was called the Philosopher's Stone. Its grade was unknown, but it was a mythical alchemy creation capable of transmuting anything, as long as the principle of equivalent exchange was fulfilled. Simon stared curiously at the stone, realizing it was a bindable item. To test this, he scratched his hand and poured blood onto the stone. It absorbed the blood and recognized Simon as its bindable host. Unexpectedly, it began to react, startling Simon as it forcefully embedded itself into his chest. Suddenly, the roof was broken by a human head emerging from above. Simon was horrified to recognize the face. It was Malsuk's. The constellation who had killed Malsuk was in disbelief as he spotted the Philosopher's Stone in Simon's possession. He continues, "I can't believe it even after seeing it in person." Simon trembled in fear, overwhelmed by Constellation's presence. The constellation questioned whether the Philosopher's Stone had the power to create a constellation. Simon's heart sank as he realized that Malsuk and his brother had both died because of this unknown constellation. But Simon was powerless. His mana incapacity left him unable to act. Just then, a message appeared, synchronization complete. The Philosopher's Stone had fully settled within him, and his mana had been converted into a unique stat called Transmutation Power. He received another achievement for acquiring this unique stat. Simon was shocked by the concept of unique stats. The Philosopher's Stone in some other language which only Simon seemed to understand urged him to transmute anything. Clenching his teeth, Simon's mind filled with a single desire to strike back at the unknown constellation. Energy roared violently inside him, making him groan in pain as the system began searching for a suitable target within Simon's categories. However, it found no results. The system then consumed transmutation power to expand its search independently. The search finally succeeded, targeting an unknown book. The system confirmed that the required power for equivalent exchange was sufficient. Using the Philosopher's Stone's power, independent transmutation began. Simon, unconscious and under the control of the Philosopher's Stone, raised his hand and flicked his fingers. Now that's what you call a deadly move. Something unimaginable happened, something even Constellation couldn't believe. A message appeared, an artifact never before created has been born. The original owner, an unknown constellation, stirred from slumber and turned its gaze toward Simon. The unknown constellation's rage filled the space as it exclaimed, "How is it possible for a mere human to recreate my foolish father's legacy?" Simon, still unconscious, woke up to a message. You have attracted the attention of a celestial being and earned 1,000 achievement points. He had also drawn the attention of an unregistered constellation in the galaxy arena, earning him the title, the one who receives attention from beyond. Simon wasn't sure what had just happened, but one thing was clear: he had struck back at the unknown constellation. As his consciousness faded, he caught a final glimpse of Malsuk's face. "We know what's going to happen, at least I know." The next thing we know, we see a peaceful city, and Simon woke up in his studio apartment. Disoriented, he stood up and looked around and thought, was it all just a hallucination? Those bloodshot eyes, had that just been a trick of his mind? Yet, the distant feeling of death still lingered in his heart. His phone suddenly rang, snapping him out of his thoughts. Simon picked it up, surprised to see it was still functional. The world had been in chaos before, and nations like the United States and China had been left in shambles. Simon had thrown his phone away back then. What shocked him even more was the year displayed on the screen. 2030. He wonders, did he really go back 11 years into the past when he was 28 years old? He thinks about what happened and remembers clearly that the Philosopher's Stone took control of his body and created something unknown. He suddenly seems to feel different from the past. When he was 28 years old, he didn't feel any happiness because he was going through a really hard time due to the magic disability he got from the accident, and he also had to wear glasses as his vision was not good. But right now, he can't feel the oppression due to the lack of magic. It was completely gone. He checks his status window. He now has the title the Pioneer of Alchemy. He was surprised to see in traits that instead of magic state, it was Philosopher's Stone. He puts his hand on his chest and wonders what happened to the Philosopher's Stone in his chest. Did it change into a trait through attribution? Anyway, the stone seems to have granted him his wish. He sighs, as he never expected such a day would come. The magic disability that was like shackles burdening him his entire life was now gone. Knowing this, he couldn't possibly stay calm, so he stood up to get something to drink. He took a beer from the fridge, opened it, and took a drink. He said to himself that the headache from moving due to the magic disability had vanished, and there was more than one thing that had changed. All of his stats had also been restored to their original state. What's more, he could now taste the true taste of beer as he felt overjoyed. The average for level 1 was 5 in all stats, and he was still 1 short. A 10 stat was only something super rookies had, but to his surprise, he saw that he had a stat of 10. In addition, it was no longer magic, but affinity. He then remembers the system informing him that the stat magic had been converted into a unique stat called affinity, and he had achieved the achievement possession of a unique stat. He seems amazed since he now also had a unique stat, and he had it at level 1. There were only a small number of players who had unique stats in Simon's previous life, and most of them rose to high levels like Sihyok and Jong Richu. He continues, no one knew what happened to the rest. He then wonders what in the bloody hell was going on here. He had achievement points of over 1 million. He didn't know where they were coming from, but he decided to think about it after opening the achievement shop. He then pressed the button to look into the titles given to him. He saw many titles, but what caught his attention was Pioneer of Alchemy, a growth-type title given to an alchemist who had synthesized all of the mythical elements of alchemy. Because of the title, he'd get a very small bonus related to affinity. Simon was surprised to see it. He asks himself, is it a class-related title, and also a growth type? Feeling overjoyed, he smiled slightly, thinking that Malsuk, who could be described as a relatively latecomer among the high rankers, was able to reign as a high ranker thanks to the fraudulent title she received from the Heavenly Demons constellation. Now, he had something like that too. He decided to look at the other titles to see what else he got. He also received the title the one who receives attention from beyond, given to those who had received attention from beyond. No one knew whether it was good or bad luck, but it was certainly something incredible. He had no idea when he got a title like that, attention from beyond. Curious, he wondered what it meant by beyond. Was it supposed to be something different? He decided not to think much about it, since a title was better than nothing, and the most important thing was that his magic had been restored. So, he decided to give his skills a try. First, he decided to break down the ignition formula, then change it into a proper magic form and use affinity. As we see, blue light appears in his hand, but it dissipates. He was disappointed, but he expected it. Even though it was the same magic world, he wondered if it was impossible to use magic with his new power. He opened his drawer and brought out a piece of chalk, thinking that things would be different if he drew a magic circle. Originally, he was supposed to draw it. He then began drawing it. In the past, so much damage had been done in the end that he couldn't use magic. But now, with his affinity, there would be great benefits. Before he could start drawing, however, the Philosopher's Stone suddenly went into a frenzy. It was a result of his body denying it, but he realized it was because of the Philosopher's Stone. The method he was about to use was deemed inefficient by the Philosopher's Stone. That's why it went into a frenzy. Thinking about it, Simon wondered how the Philosopher's Stone had transformed after he got it. He recalled the methods it used in the past when he was unconscious. Now, instead of drawing a magic circle, he raised his fingers, closed his eyes, and thought about what he wanted to materialize. He thought about something in the shape of a spear, so he decided the spear should look like the one used by Zhong Richu. The stronger the ability or additions to it, the better. The price he decided to pay for was the affinity he had. He flicked his hand to make it a reality, but he felt a painful backlash from the Philosopher's Stone, making him scream in pain. The system informed him that there wasn't enough affinity to achieve the desired result, and the unstable Philosopher's Stone sought a different approach, one found in Simon's possession. In its unstable state, the Philosopher's Stone required 1 million achievement points for recovery. Simon was shocked at the Philosopher's Stone's absurd demand, but he calmed down, thinking about it. The Philosopher's Stone had cured his magic disability and sent him back 11 years into the past. Though it felt like a waste, he decided to trust the Philosopher's Stone because it had already proven its worth. He pressed the yes button, consuming 1 million achievement points, which finally stabilized the Philosopher's Stone. Simon was overjoyed, as alchemy would be much easier now. He decided to try again, but there was still no response. He got another message stating there wasn't enough affinity to achieve the desired result, which really pissed him off. Though he was a little frustrated, he remembered how, even in a desperate situation when he had a magic disability, he was able to create a mythical weapon. So there was no way he wouldn't be able to create a single spear with his newfound powers. Another message appeared, informing him that to establish an equivalent exchange, the Philosopher's Stone required 500 achievement points. He was then asked if he'd like to proceed. He grinned and sarcastically remarked that it seemed like the 1 million points weren't enough, but he decided to proceed. Now, he decided to try again, praying that his invested points would be worth it. With a flick of his finger, there was a sudden outburst of thunder, which sent something through his window and pierced the ground. He was surprised himself to see the spear. He then got a message saying, "An unknown constellation is watching you." We are then taken to some higher, unknown place, where the room is filled with masked people. Simon gets the message. The constellation Hermes notices you at the sudden appearance of the lightning bolt from Olympus. The constellation Athena notices you. Many constellations took notice. Seeing this, Simon wonders why the constellations are suddenly interested in him. The Olympus constellations observed him more, and were surprised to see the traces left behind on Simon. They hurriedly retreated. While seeing this, only 3 constellations remained calm. Among them, the ruler of Olympus, the constellation Zeus, showed great interest in Simon. "He looks quite dope, not gonna lie." Simon was surprised to see that the constellations retreated because of the traces left behind, so he wondered if it was because of the title, the one who receives attention from beyond. That aside, he had no idea what this sudden chaos the spear had caused. He looked at the spear emitting thunder, then grabbed it with his hand, causing lightning bolts to flow through his body as he held the spear. He got a message. The spear's name is Estra. It's a counterfeit grade and only contains 10% of the original's power. It's the spear of Zeus, the ruler of Olympus. It can control lightning, but for some reason, its full power can't be extended. Simon, surprised to see it was Astraph, thought about how it was the main weapon used by Alexander, the Lightning Emperor. Even after losing his affiliation, Alexander the Lightning Emperor remained a strong high ranker. Moreover, he used a spear with power that could rival the lightning attribute magic of a Grand Mage ranker. He couldn't believe that he had made such a weapon, but just by equipping it, it destroyed everything around it. So it was really shabby compared to the real Estra. In the end, it was a counterfeit item according to its grade. Simon thought that right now, Zeus was only showing interest, but he hadn't made any proposals for sponsorship yet. Though there was nothing odd about that, he paused for a moment and thought. Come to think of it, the system definitely didn't say that production was impossible. It only said there's not enough affinity to achieve the desired results. So if I could meet the requirements of affinity, could I actually make the original Astraph? Simon smiled. It was so surprising that his magic was restored, and he went back 11 years into the past. And now, with equivalent exchange, he deemed it possible to fuse with even mythical weapons. Alchemy is a really crazy ability, he thought. But suddenly, the spear started fading away and disappeared. He thought it was a rebound of transmutation, and also, his achievement points were gone. He was really disappointed and felt like crying since he gave 500 achievement points for the spear. For a mere level 1 like him, 500 points was really extravagant. But he calmed down since the spear really had crazy power. Though he felt empty and angry, blowing away those 500 achievement points, he got a message from the system informing him that the Philosopher's Stone minimizes the rebound, so he'll receive 50 achievement points back in proportion to the grade and level of the Philosopher's Stone. Simon was surprised that the Philosopher's Stone was giving him back the points for the transmutation. He activated his status window and clicked the possessed trait. The Philosopher's Stone was currently at level 1, grade F. He was surprised to see it was different from the initial status window, since there was clearly no level, and the grade was only a question mark with nothing else. So he wondered if it was because of the attribution and regression. He then decided to ask the Philosopher's Stone two things: if this was a change that happened due to the attribution, and if the Philosopher's Stone's growth was influenced by him. The Philosopher's Stone reacted and gave him answers in some. I couldn't understand it, but hopefully, the Philosopher's Stone would talk in a clear way soon and get some personality. Sometime later, Simon said to himself while tidying the room that magic players cast spells even for alchemy. Materials for transmutations and magic circles are essential. Right now, as he tidied the room, he didn't know it would be this efficient to draw a magic circle without a draft. He was happy since it was on a whole different level from the affinity connection. It was an innovation in alchemy, or rather in the magic world. Just like that, he completely restored the room to its peak condition. Thanks to the Philosopher's Stone, he was able to practice a new method, and with his current level of alchemy, he deemed the tutorial would be easy. It would be starting at 5 p.m. today, he thought as he looked at the clock. He couldn't forget today, January 17th, 2030. At 5 p.m., it was a tutorial to help him become recognized as a true arena player, and it was the day he would receive the first summons. He felt it was so ironic. He wondered, why did I return to the day of the tutorial summoning? He thought about the event back then. It was a conquest battle. I was so weak back then. I couldn't even set foot in the occupied zone before my head got pierced by an arrow. But now, he wasn't scared anymore because he had alchemy. He picked up his phone, recalling that he got a message earlier. It was a message from his brother. Simon felt a bit embarrassed seeing the message since he was a big brother in name only. Simon smiled slightly as he read the message. His brother was happy that he got into the academy. He got a diamond rank and gained one more trait. Now, he had 3, but he didn't know how to use them yet. Another message asked Simon if he went to see the sunrise, noting that being a senior is hard with no time to go anywhere. The messages were so many, more than 100. His brother used to be the brightest guy, Simon thought. He didn't know it back then, how much his insides were rotting away. Now, after the regression, he knows the target of the galaxy arena is his little brother, and he can change it all from now on. But before that, it's important to improve their brotherly relationship first. He sighed and wondered what he should send since he had nothing to say. After he finished sending a short text, he was surprised to see the message from Li Yujiang. Remembering that the person was also alive, his hand shook, and he then sat down, worried. But he decided to calm down first, as the tragic events of the past hadn't happened yet. As we see Simon standing in front of an area engulfed in red light, he declares that he can change it. No, it must be changed. He then got a message congratulating him for being selected for the arena tutorial, so he should prepare himself. He would be summoned to the tutorial shortly. 9 minutes and 59 seconds until summoning. If he had an arena access device, he must equip and use it. Seeing the message, Simon made up his mind. This time, the miserable life of the man without magic and all the misfortune that happens in the future, he'll change all of that now and apply for early admission. The status window welcomes all players. It states that today's tutorial game mode is domination and that the number of participants is 100. Simon had already joined. He realized that it was the same jungle map as back then, and now, he truly believed he had returned to the past. The system instructed them to earn points by occupying zones or eliminating other players. Kim Seaman said, "It's been a while since I last participated in an arena, so for now, he decided to play it safe and aim for the top ranks." But suddenly, he received a message stating that the constellation Zeus's gaze on him had grown more intense. He was surprised to see this. What's more, the constellation Zeus had issued him a mission. The mission window activated, and a support window also appeared. Simon was shocked to see a mission, as missions and supports were usually unlocked only after completing the tutorial. He wondered why they were active now. The mission was a challenge from Zeus, instructing Simon to achieve first place in the domination tutorial. The reward was 1,000 achievement points. Seaman thought, as expected of the ruler of Olympus, not settling for anything less than first place. Still, 1,000 achievement points for just a tutorial is very big, so I must complete this mission. But he looked up and jokingly said to Zeus, "If you could just add 100 more points for the fun of it." Zeus gave Siwan a death stare. He stopped and quickly said, "Of course, I was just kidding." He then walked away, thinking that Zeus was stingy for someone claiming to be the ruler of Olympus. The scene then shifts to an ongoing hunt. A man was killed, an arrow pierced through his neck. The killer laughed, saying, "An easy kill is always sweet." As expected of the big leagues, even their consumable items are on a whole different level. The killer was Kim Min-young, a member of the Holy Trinity. The guild had only told him to survive and come back, but that was not enough for him. He was furious that they had kicked him out of the academy, and there was no way he'd stay as a mere guild member, so he decided to make them regret discarding a talent like him. At the same time, Seaman was walking through a forest path and arrived at the place he was looking for. Excited, he shouted, "Found it!" and continued. The stream brought back memories. Meanwhile, we see Min-young sitting atop a tree. He prepared his arrow and said, "Wow, an unarmed contestant. What an easy kill." With no gear, his traits are possibly weak. His eyes glowed red with killing intent. "Thanks for the free kill," he sneered. He shot the arrow, engulfed in red aura, towards Seaman. As the arrow came closer, Seaman flicked his finger and used water to destroy the arrow. He identified the attacker, flicked his finger again, and shot Min-young. He fell but quickly regained his balance. Turning around, he thought, "He's a mage. So what? He still doesn't have any gear." As he prepared a new arrow, he was surprised to see an incoming attack. He barely dodged it. Seaman, seeing this, said, "Your movements aren't bad. I was aiming for your head well. At least it feels satisfying to lose to someone like this." Min-young, pissed, shouted, "You bastard. What the hell are you babbling about?" He ran towards Seaman, covering his hands and feet in red aura, lunging forward with his knife. But Seaman suddenly said, "A B-rank trait, quick reflexes." Min-young, surprised, asked, "How do you know about that?" Seaman smiled. We then see Min-young's chest pierced with a spear made of the ground. Min-young coughed up blood and, in a shaky tone, asked Simon if he was from the Awakener Academy. Seaman approached him and replied, "There's no way a place like that would accept me." Seaman sat down and remarked that, judging by Min-young's expensive gear, he must have been a rookie from a well-known guild. He was probably using a high-quality virtual reality equivalent, so the shock in real life wouldn't be much. But he'd be dead for real if this was an official arena match. Simon thought further. He realized he had joined without even using virtual equipment in an official arena. Losing wasn't just a defeat, it meant actual death in the real world, not just a logout, and that wasn't the worst of it. If an arena wasn't cleared, it triggered an outbreak in the affiliated country. In dungeons or raids, any monsters not defeated would be unleashed upon the earth. That was why the number of rankers in official arenas became a measure of national power. Unfortunately, after that incident, Korea failed to stop its outbreak and followed the path of other smaller nations into ruin, but that hadn't happened yet, so Simon decided to focus on the present. He then decided to check the tutorial rankings. First place was Kang Hoang with 2 kills and 4% domination points. Second place was Lee Sayan with 1 kill and 4% domination points. Seeing this, Simon wondered why the kill counts were so low. Considering it had been a while since the tutorial started, he deduced that everyone must be camping, which was the best explanation for the low kills. He thought, even though this is a tutorial, the matchmaking mimer landed us in a gold-level domination mode. That means the participants here are high-level even for beginners. With strong traits, stats, and equipment, the more you have to lose, the more cautious you get. Simon checked other rankings and saw that someone had already entered the capture zone. If their domination points are only 4, they haven't been there long. To win this mode, capturing zones was more important than kills. For now, he decided to use this time to get more familiar with his crafting skills and rack up a few more kills. Sometime later, we see a guy running at full speed, breathing heavily, saying the guy pursuing him was insane, but he was killed by a spear made from the ground. Simon says that the guy's speed was unreal. Even with full plate armor, he was still that fast. He wondered if the guy had some kind of speed-related trait. If the guy hadn't attacked first, Simon wouldn't have even noticed him. Someone then sneaked up behind him with a dagger and charged to attack Simon. But Simon saw the guy in time and swiftly took him down with his no-chanting spell. He was pissed at those hyenas for always looking for cheap kills. He was surprised to see a message from the system informing him that repeated crafting had increased his crafting ability and the Philosopher stone level had increased. He was surprised to see a stat increase but deemed it normal at lower levels, though he hadn't expected the Philosopher stone to level up. It was a good thing he practiced by hunting down those who camped out. With this kill, he was at 11 kills now. No more getting backstabbed, he thought. He then decided it was time to move in, since the occupied territory was just ahead. As he walked along the path, he suddenly saw something and swiftly ran to hide behind a tree. He was surprised to see many dead bodies, and this place wasn't even the occupied territory. He decided to check the arena board. The first position was Kang Hoang with 7 kills and 60% domination points. He was surprised to see that the domination points were nearly the same from first to fourth. Plus, all 4 of them were in the rankings from the early tutorial. That meant they had been in the rankings since the start. That was when Simon realized they were teaming, which was a rule violation. He was disappointed in them for teaming up in tutorial mode. Even if they wanted to be in the rankings, it was bad. He then wondered where they were. When he saw them, he realized they had set up camp inside the occupied territory. Tankers were in front, archers in the back, and 2 sword-wielding warriors on both sides. It was a perfect setup, and it would be hard for players to sneak up on them. Simon was trying to save the mission rewards, but he decided to use them since he had no choice. If the 4 of them were going to pull such disgusting tricks, then he had no choice but to play dirty. The archer scanned through the area. The tank asked if she saw anything, and she replied, "No, no one is coming." The tank sarcastically asked her if she was running out of aura and getting sluggish. But someone corrected him and told him that clairvoyance didn't use aura, it used mana. "Oh, really?" the tank remarked. "It must be nice being able to rack up kills with aura to spare." She then asked the tank why he was complaining to her about his kill count. He replied honestly, "It's annoying. Everyone else is getting 5 kills or more, except me." She found his complaint hilarious, since no one told him to play a tanker role. Her words really pissed him off, so they started arguing, but someone told them to stop. The guy then told the tank that, since he had over 60% domination points now, he would allow him to handle the kills from now on. Hearing this, the tank immediately became happy. Saiyan then asked the guy if they could leave the occupied territory soon because most of the participants were gone, and it was just frustrating sitting. The guy was thinking for a moment. Saiyan asked if he was worried about Kim Seaman. She told him not to worry. She knew all the rookies in the guild, and she couldn't find any mention of Kim Seaman. The guy told her, "That's exactly why it's a problem. A guy we've never heard of has 11 kills." But she told him they didn't need to worry. If that's the case, since the ones we're matched against are all trash, that Kim Seaman must have just been killing people like a hyena. Otherwise, he would have come to the occupied territory sooner. If he was really that good, she told him not to stress and suggested they maintain formation and scout the area, since they had trained hard. After all, the guy agreed. Just like Saiyan said, after the 4 of them were eliminated in the last tutorial, they trained while grinding their teeth. Thanks to that, their Jeongle guild even supported them with equipment. As a result, they were in first place. The girl told him, "Have some confidence. We're a team," and then there's a guy no one's even heard of. She immediately went silent when she noticed something. She used her clairvoyance skill to scan the area and detected Seaman. She alerted her team, drew her bow, and shot an arrow at Simon's location. But before the arrow could reach him, it was broken by Simon's ground spear. This surprised the girl, not just her. The others were surprised to see him use magic. They worriedly asked if he was from the magic class. With a slight grin, Simon remarked, "I tried to hide, but your B-rank clairvoyance trait detected me." "Not bad." The girl was surprised and questioned, "How did you figure out which skill I'm using?" He replied, "It's because I've studied traits quite a bit." She says, "Is that so?" As she decided to shoot another arrow to show Seaman what he didn't know. But their leader told her to wait. He moved forward with his intimidating aura and tone. Then asked our MC, "Are you Kim Seaman?" He smiles and asks the man about himself. The man replies that his name is Kang Hoyan. Seaman comments that Kang, being in first place, must mean he's the leader, to which Hoying replies, "That's right." He then extends his hand toward Seaman, stating that he won't waste words and directly invites him to join their team. Saiyan looks at him in shock and asks if he's out of his mind. Another team member questions how Kang can trust Seaman not to betray them. Kang calmly explains that Seaman managed 11 kills without special equipment, suggesting he has an S rank or higher magic trait. Kang then turns back to Seaman, saying he'll make him first place. Saiyan grabs Kang angrily, arguing that he can't be serious. Seaman is a magic user, and if he betrays them, they're all as good as dead. However, Kang dismisses her concerns, reasoning that the benefits outweigh the risks of teaming up with such a strong magic user. He pushes her hand away, adding that magic users are rare, even in their jungle guild, and that achieving 11 kills is absurd without scavenging. He then looks at her firmly and asks her to focus on the long-term benefits. If they form TIs with a magic user like Seaman, their position within the guild will skyrocket. Seaman chuckles, remarking that they're hilarious for assuming he would accept their offer. Kang, surprised, asks him what he means. Seaman says that Kang's tone makes it seem like he naturally agreed to join them. Kang, frustrated, apologizes if that's a problem. Seaman indifferently replies that while he's familiar with the arrogance of magic users, he isn't like that. Smirking, he adds, "That's not the issue." Kang, confused, asks what the problem is. Seaman says that teaming up is the issue. Kang, now shocked, asks what's wrong with teaming. Seaman explains that teaming is a rule violation. If this tutorial were being broadcast, Kang would be getting roasted right now. Kang shrugs, saying he doesn't care about public opinion since there's no punishment anyway. Seaman smirks and notes that Kang seems to be from a fairly reputable guild, so how does he plan to handle this? He presses Kang, asking if he's confident about the decision. The other team members glare at Seaman and say that catching a few bugs has made Seaman's confidence through the roof. He then raises his hand and declares that the Jungle Guild only cares about efficiency. As long as results are good, nothing else matters. Kang then points at Seaman, advising him to join their team, saying it's his last chance. Seaman removes his hood, smiling as he says, "So typical of the Jeongle Guild." There is no point in further talking. He points towards Kang and his team and says, "Worry about yourself." Suddenly, lightning gathers around Seaman's finger. As he flicks, a spear comes and strikes the ground. Blinded by the electricity, everyone covers their eyes. The tank slowly sees it and, surprised, asks, "What is that?" Seaman, as he holds the spear, says, "First place is already mine. Why would I dirty myself with something like teaming?" Kang glares at him, stating that negotiations have failed. He draws his sword and shouts for Saiyan. She quickly launches an arrow, replying, "I got him." She releases the arrow, sending it flying towards Seaman, but Seaman points his spear at the arrow. As these two strike, we see a tremendous release of a wave of energy. The electrifying energy sweeps the arrow's energy and moves towards Saiyan and the other members and strikes them. We see Seaman standing calmly while the others are electrocuted and die. He smirks at his spear, remarking that it's only at 10% power, but something feels off. He turns and sees Kang charging at him with his sword. Amused, Seaman says, "You survived," as he launches another electrifying attack with his spear. We see a release of shadow-like aura, and the next moment, Kang is gone. Seaman recognizes it as a rank trait, shadow movement, and understands how he dodged the lightning earlier. But suddenly, he senses someone behind him. It's Kang, raising his sword for a final strike. He shouts, "Die!" Just before the attack lands, Seaman snaps his fingers. Kang is suddenly pierced with the ground spear, blood pouring from a wound in his stomach. Trembling, Kang demands to know how Seaman still has mana after using such powerful magic. Seaman smiles and explains, "This is something a little different." Kang grits his teeth in frustration. Seaman dismisses him, saying it's a waste of time to stay. Suddenly, the sky lights up, and the system announces that Seaman has achieved 100% of the capture points. The owner of the captured area is determined, and the tutorial ends. Seaman smiles as it's over. The system further announces that Kim Seaman is in first place, followed by Young Saiyan in second. Seaman has won the title Ruler of the Tutorial and earned 100 achievement points. He completes the mission assigned by the constellation Zeus and gains 1,000 additional points. Seaman is slightly disappointed, noting he could have earned all 1,000 points had he not used Astrephi's magic. The system notifies him that the constellation is pleased with his performance and grants an extra 100 points. Seaman is shocked to find his total points amount to 750, with the arena clear rewards waiting for him in the real world. Smiling, he realizes he's gained a lot from this tutorial and eagerly anticipates what's next. The system then prompts him to return to his original location. That's all for now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next part.